Arthur Sinodinos, welcome to the program.
Thanks, David. Great to be with you on a historic day.
It certainly is. Prime Minister Scott Morrison has now joined other world leaders in congratulating Joe Biden and Kamala Harris on their victory. So, as far as Australia is concerned, is Joe Biden now the president-elect?
He's the president-elect. What's happened is that the television networks here have called it, Associated Press have called it, and the AP have been calling it for 100 years. And while there's obviously the possibility of challenges in the courts and all the rest of it, here people are proceeding on the basis that Joe Biden is the president-elect, and we proceed from there.
Well, not everyone, actually. Donald Trump, the current president, has just tweeted again in the last half hour or so that I won the election. You don't believe that?
Well, the president, and it's their contest, ultimately they have to resolve this. The president has the right to challenge if he believes there's any sort of electoral malfeasance or whatever in the courts. And the thing about this place is that it's a magnificent democracy with the rule of law, with a strong court system, a very free press, institutions that uphold the checks and balances through the division of power between the judiciary, the executive and the legislature. So those institutions will be perhaps tested by all this, but to date those institutions have come through and America survived as a democracy for 244 years, and I think what's going on now will vindicate that democracy.
I just want to be clear about this, because the president, Donald Trump, is insisting that this still play out in the courts, be allowed to continue in the courts before anyone declares victory. That's not the position Australia is taking. You are now regarding Joe Biden as the victor.
Well, we're taking the position that the election has been called. The president has the right to contest this in the courts, but we, the UK, New Zealand, Canada, India, France, Germany and others have taken a view based on the information that's been provided by the networks and others who have called it, that this is the case. But as I say, it's a free country. These matters can be challenged in the courts.
Was there any coordination amongst those countries you listed there to respond in the way that you have? No, not in any formal sense. I think we were all, particularly here in Washington, among the various embassies, wondering, when the election might be called. But there's not been that sort of coordination, no. But some informal discussion amongst the embassies in Washington about this?
Well, Washington is that sort of town. You talk about everything, and this is the biggest issue in town, and that was something we've been talking to people about all week. About
when to actually congratulate Joe Biden, given this situation?
No. Initially, the discussions were about what was going on, trying to work out what was going to happen, and then, as things became clearer, what the next steps might be. It's part of the job of a diplomat here to work out what other people are doing, put the information mosaic together, and then work out what is the best advice to your own government.
Look, do you believe the President, Donald Trump, with his unfounded claims of fraud, the election being stolen, is he trying to undermine the democratic system? Because it's a democracy, any candidate in an election has the right, if they believe that there are issues, to take those issues forward, and that's what the president is doing. But he's doing more than that. He's saying there's been fraud. He's saying the election's being stolen.
And what I'm saying, he has the right to present whatever evidence he may have in that regard to courts, undertake challenges and all the rest of it, and the courts and the relevant election authorities can work that out.
But he's doing more than that.
But ultimately, David, it's for their system. It's for their system to work all of this through.
Are you worried there?
And of course, we don't interfere in any of that.
Are you worried there may not be a smooth transition of power in the United States?
Look, until the 20th of January, Donald Trump remains the President of the United States. My job here at the Embassy, our people at the Embassy, will continue to deal professionally with our colleagues in the State Department, the White House and elsewhere. And the inauguration, there's a new president. We will then move to work closely with a new administration.
there's a very high regard for Australia here in Washington on both sides of the aisle. So I'm quite confident we can maintain a good working relationship with our current colleagues in the White House and with any future colleagues.
Well, let's talk about that. Have you built relationships with the Biden camp? How well do you know those senior players around the president-elect? And, what do you expect this will mean for Australia?
Many of the senior players were around in the Obama years, and so many of us here and also back in Australia have good relationships with them. There's been no formal contact with his campaign team during this period because of the concern by both campaign teams about dealing with foreign embassies and officials. But there's plenty of exposure, both formally and informally, over the last few years, because some of these people have also been working in think tanks. So there's been an opportunity to exchange ideas. And in terms of what it means for Australia, the first thing it means is that the alliance remains in good shape and will continue to be in good shape. And all of those things that we do together, whether it's the AUSMIN, the cooperation we have around areas of technology, critical minerals and the rest, frontier technologies, that will all continue. And we will work with the new administration to promote greater openness when it comes to trade and investment between our two countries, and also cooperate in multilateral institutions. If the new administration is true to its word and wants to come back into the Paris Agreement and into the World Health Organization, well, we will welcome their participation in those bodies.
Look, I'm not sure if that earpiece has popped out or whether you can still hear me there, but let me ask you about climate change in particular. Joe Biden is going to recommit the United States to the Paris Agreement. He's indicated in certainly his campaign material that he wants to pressure other nations to do more. Will Australia, do you think, come under some pressure to lift its own ambition when it comes to cutting emissions?
Well, I think the first point to make is that in the run-up to COP26 next year in Glasgow, which will be a climate summit, as well as one that President Biden wants to convene next year, President-elect Biden, there will be an opportunity to discuss all this. Australia is already working out its next steps. We've laid out our low emissions technology roadmap because we believe that what's important when it comes to climate change is not just saying what you say the outcome is that you want to achieve, it's how you achieve it. And what we've done is to lay out a roadmap for how you achieve it. And the Prime Minister is keen to promote that roadmap in discussions both with the Biden administration, if it comes to fruition, and also other countries in our own region. So we actually have a map about how to get there. And there's a lot in the Biden campaign material around investing in renewable technologies, which actually overlaps very significantly with the approach that we want to take. My final point on this is that in the past, when we have set targets or said we're going to do something, we mean it. Unlike a lot of countries, we actually achieve our targets, and we do it because we lay out how we're going to do it. And in this case, we're laying out a low emissions technology roadmap to invest in the low emission technologies of the future.
What about on China? Do you expect Joe Biden to take a different approach on China, whether it's on trade or on human rights?
Look, on China, what struck me in the period I've been here in Washington is across the aisle, there are very few friends for China left in the US. There is just a feeling that there's a major geostrategic competition going on, and I expect a Biden administration would be very much of that ilk as well. And I think there will be opportunities for us all to work together. The important thing with China is that we want a strong and prosperous China, but it's convincing China that that works best when we all work together as part of a rules-based order. The rules around trade, the rules around technology, the rules around the law of the sea. If we all observe the same rules, they protect particularly medium and smaller countries. And for us, Australia as a middle power, that's very important. So we'll work with the Biden administration and with like-minded countries in our region and elsewhere in a way which promotes that rules-based order.
Yeah, but Donald Trump was pretty silent on the treatment of Uyghurs. He was pretty silent on what happens in Hong Kong. Do you think Joe Biden will take a harder line?
Well, on Hong Kong, this administration, the Trump administration, along with the Five Eyes and others, put out statements indicating our concern about the abrogation of international agreements and understandings around the future of Hong Kong and the like. But in relation to human rights generally, this administration has taken opportunities to call them out, and I've no doubt the Biden administration will be very strong on matters to do with human rights, and this is an area where I think we can work very productively together.
Final question. If Donald Trump refuses to concede, is there a point at which you think Australia, indeed Scott Morrison, should get on the phone to the President?
Look, at the end of the day, David, these are matters which will be resolved internally. The administration is in power till the 20th of January. On the 20th of January, there is a new presidential term. A new president takes over.
All right, so no need for Australia to get involved further.
These are matters for them to resolve, just as we would not expect others or welcome others seeking to interfere in our domestic political arrangements.
Australian Ambassador to Washington, Arthur Sinodinos, thanks for joining us and sticking through some of those audio issues. Appreciate your time.
Thanks very much, David.